Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to more Nier, the pre-recorded adventures with me, Sinister Pixel, continuing where we left off in this whole, my recorder fucked up and shit didn't get recorded. So last we left off, we were in the amusement park and we were just kind of like going through the motions, having some fun at the happiest place on earth, because of course this is Disneyland. And this episode's an interesting one. So, one thing you might notice, because it's something I definitely noticed, was that the enemies weren't really attacking me when I went through the motions. And I was getting very confused. In fact, I was getting so confused I was like slashing the air. But they weren't attacking me whatsoever. So, I'm a little bit curious here. And I notice those enemies aren't aggroing me, so I go back here and I see an enemy here who didn't attack me. Then I realise I've got the option to talk to him. And I'm kind of like, what? Hang on. And in fact, this one is actually trying to sell me things, which, I don't know, there wasn't much there. I didn't really take anything, but I was very curious and confused by this point. So, let's go up here just have a look around, but ultimately what I decided to do during this session was I decided I was going to experiment a little bit. So, start by just dancing around these guys, and notice I walk straight through them. And I'm very confused. I go over here, stand in front of these guys, nothing. In fact, I can talk to all of them. And yeah, you can imagine I'm very confused at this point. Like, how come these ones are being passive? So I decide I'm going to attack them just to see what happens. And they don't really put up much of a fight. Eventually a couple of the machines do start aggroing on me. But it's only when one of them sees me like attacking one of their kind that really happens. So as you can imagine, I have no fucking clue what is happening. But I proceed to fight the ones which aggroed on me, and I see this one just never really aggroed on me. I can't talk to her, so I figure that's because there are more monsters on me, robots on me, which there are. So I just get rid of those. And even this one, who's taken damage from me, would still talk to me because he didn't notice I was one who gave him the damage. So I sort of, well, first I pick up this item. I go over here and I talk to this one, who tells me to throw down my weapons and cement of love, and I decide to put her out of her misery. Mainly because I killed all our friends and I didn't want her to leave a lonely existence. So I'm having a look at this gate here. Well, after I get this shiny. I'm very good at catching shiny. Actually, you're going to notice I start missing shinies later on. I don't know if it's this episode or the next episode.
Maybe there's another way around.
But despite our immense strength, we can't bust down that gate apparently. So I just try like, oh, can I jump over it? No, so I decided to find another way. I'm just trying to think what's the best way. I'm just kind of looking at my map, seeing if I can parkour anywhere. And it takes me a second to find it. I go back just to see if there is anything. I notice a little gap. Obviously I can't get through there because you know what this game's like with tiny little gaps. Well, you know what this game's like with invisible walls in general. So I go back in the main lobby just to see if there's anything I can do. Grab a shiny that I missed. As you know me and my shinies, I do like them. And I noticed there is like some like space behind. Like that looks like it was there intentionally for me to be able to get out, but there is an invisible wall there. Which, at that point, I don't know why you just wouldn't keep the fence like entirely connected. But I do notice on the mini-map, this statue marked as an enemy. And I'm confident it's this statue, so I try attacking it. Obviously I can't really do anything. I was kind of expecting it to come to life, kind of like the, the Pig King statue from Mother 3. Good game, Mother 3. I might play it one day if I can get content creators sorted out.
Where does this corridor lead?
So I just kind of go up here just to see what's happening. And I notice there's a machine on a break. So these things are basically living as humans at this point. And it's all very confusing. I walked past the shiny there. I don't know how I missed that. But I just kind of start ignoring enemies, and I kind of set the rule to myself. I'm not going to attack an enemy unless it attacks me first.
Resistance signals from that building over there.
But moving forward, like as 9S just said, we were getting signals from that building over there, so I decide, well, I don't decide. But that's what I'm going to go check out next. That is just kind of what I have to check out next. And I was looking, I just decided to look at my inbox as well. I can't read that, so it's kind of a bit useless for me, like sitting there right now. But I do remember the Operator 60 ones were quite funny. If you want to pause and you want to read those, they were quite funny. And Operator 60, I believe, is talking about some android she likes, some android she has like a crush on, which I'm very confused because I didn't really... it's hard to say whether these guys have personalities or not, like whether they can feel love. I assume they can, but why would you design your androids to feel love? And that's kind of a weird concept for me. If I was designing androids, robot warriors literally built to take the Earth back, the last thing I'd make them do would be feel love. I'd just kind of make them like just emotionless. I don't know, I guess maybe it's to give them the concept of humanity. But then again, I've been saying I somehow get the feeling that the humans weren't responsible for the androids. The androids are just using that as a ruse. And it's another one of those things we can't access. I still don't know what that is. If it's spoilery, don't tell me, but yeah. Find more robots. And yeah, just kind of like... I take a second until it occurs to me that these cars are in a bit of an odd shape, and whenever I stand on them, they turn into a platformer. Now, the thing about precision platforming in the side-scrolling platform mode is that it doesn't, like, it works, don't get me wrong, it just doesn't feel comfortable. You can see it's like a little bit awkward. I'm like using my double jump to adjust my landing a little bit. Given that the game runs a beat 'em up style, I don't know. It doesn't really feel like natural and intuitive way to control the game. And I see this giant tank thing, which is like a mini boss. And obviously the intention,
we'll regret it later if we let them escape. So let's take them out. As
9S said, was to take them out, but I was just like, hang on, I'm not taking them out until I get attacked. So I decided I'm going to dance around it a little bit. I want to see just how far I can take this. So I kind of just dawdle about a bit, let it do its thing. Because that doesn't seem heavily armed to me. That seems like a carnival. Not a carnival thing. Oh god, I haven't forgotten the word. Like it's like one of those floats you see at half time at like the Super Bowl. It's weird being British and talking about the Super Bowl.
If they aren't hostile, fighting them is a waste of time.
And that's another thing. Like, they weren't hostile, so I just decided I'm going to leave it. And so I'm just kind of like okay, now what? Do I get to ride the roller coaster track or what? And sure enough, right on cue.
What's this?
Analysis. It is a
Roller
device that
coaster.
propels humans
And this is
off rails
pretty
at
cool.
high speeds for the purposes of amusement.
Like,
It was
the
commonly
scenery
referred to
is
as a
super
roller
cool.
coaster.
Like, in this
Sure are
part.
strange creatures.
Just
Hey,
the scenery and like the visuals in this game, despite the fact it's running at 900p, are so nice.
Oh,
so what do you think?
And like, it was so nice that I actually got distracted and didn't
You wanna
notice the
call me
enemies
nuts,
straight
it's totally
away.
okay.
In the meantime, Nines is trying to bust out the friend zone. In fact, I just called him what he wanted to be called. He's trying to bust out the friend zone. Of course, we don't let him because we don't particularly like 9S. Or at least I don't like 9S personally. Like, it's not that he doesn't have a personality. It's just that. Well, yeah, actually, it might be the reason. It's hard to say what it is I don't like about him in particular. But he never struck me as someone who had much of a personality. He's kind of like the drone that just follows us. He doesn't really develop with us. He doesn't have the same emotional, like, reactions as we do. But I get down here and I immediately notice there's a few dead androids. And given that we've just been told there's multiple resistance members below us, I'm kind of like, okay, I probably should get ready for something big. Especially if they're throwing dead androids at me, like, right now. So, head on down, slowly. I go to see if I can jump across there, to which I can't. Invisible walls. And here's the fun part. We found the androids. But I'm curious if this thing's going to attack me. I mean, in retrospect, the fact that it was wearing down androids should have been a big hint. But regardless, I stood there a little while. Just to see. And I was like, yep, that's hostile. That is most definitely hostile. And this thing has a lot of health. And I totally did not forget about my left trigger attack. Like 100% didn't. I just decided not to use it this fight because I don't know. Because I'm good like that. Because I wanted the challenge. And this was a very hard boss. I mean, the bosses so far have been very challenging. This one was very hard. There's something I wanted to talk about was the bosses. I feel like a lot of the reason a lot of them are hard is because of how much health they had. I feel like if this boss had, like, say 25% less of a health, if she had 75% of her maximum health, I feel like it would be a lot less challenging. As you can see, I've knocked off a quarter of her health, and it's only like after that she starts hitting me with attacks which actually start genuinely hurting me. In fact, I think every time she hits me, I'm using auto recover. But I don't really want to spam bullets, because obviously that's not going to do an awful lot. That's just kind of chip bonus damage. And one thing as well that was quite tedious about this boss fight is that you can see my camera sort of swaying a lot at points. I didn't have a lot of camera control in this fight. In fact, at this point I wanted to try and get near the boss, which I think the game is trying to encourage me not to do with the camera angle. But in the heat of the moment on your first playthrough, that is not, like, readily apparent. And it was just frustrating, really, because I wanted to see where the boss was in relation to me. And I don't know, I think that's the only real criticism I could have given this boss. She goes back onto the stage, and so you kind of know she's in a, like, phase 2. And this took me by surprise, because I didn't know what I was doing. This is the first time I've seen this, so I had to figure this out. So I figured, oh, I've got to take out all these black things, and it said hacking complete, which was confusing, even though I thought I won that exchange.
2B.
But this was an interesting turn in the boss battle. I suppose hacking is going to be a gimmick which I have to deal with in the game from here on out.
Corpses.
But like in general, like what I will say is the vibe and the theme of this boss battle I did quite enjoy. Like especially here where all the android corpses come up.
Wait, I don't think 2B. I'm detecting black box signals. They aren't dead. They've been turned into weapons.
So yeah, these androids are barely alive and we have to kill them. And what's fun is they're spamming these white ass rings, which you'll see in a second. Those aren't normal damaging rings. And it's doing that thing again where it's limiting my camera angle. And I decided I'm just going to repair this guy right in the middle of battle. Bad idea, because I start getting hacked again. And yeah, like that's the one thing. Like, I feel like this fight would be a lot better if I just had free use of my camera. Because the things I didn't even realize, like those big waves were coming from a thing. Because they're not actually readily visible, which I feel like with a free camera I would have been able to track them down a lot faster. I get what they're going for. They want you to focus on a certain thing, and that's what they're going for. But in terms of game design, it was pretty frustrating to play through. But like again, like what I'm saying is, in terms of atmosphere and challenge, this was a very good boss. However, I feel like some spots, mainly the camera, made parts of it challenging for all the wrong reasons. Which I don't know if it's like an intentional choice, like the camera angles were like that specifically to challenge you. But I just decided at this point, I've got plenty of recovery up. I'm going to start whaling. All my small recoveries are gone, so I've moved on to the medium recoveries, of which I had a few, but she starts getting trashed. And to be fair, looking back on it, I probably would have found it easier if I'd taken out more of the androids. Especially because they keep springing up, and it's just a question of how did they send this many androids down here? But like, I guess in a sense it makes sense as to why they decided to send 2B down with 9S, because the original job was just like a scanner job. They sent down 2B as well because they probably knew this was happening. They just didn't tell us. And I'm taking damage, and I have one medium recovery remaining. So I'm a bit like, okay, shit, I've got to play super safe. And this is where it gets interesting. Obviously with the hacker rings as well, I've got to be super careful. And it is so hard to read depth perception on these things, so they don't really cast much of a shadow. And it's almost dead. In fact, there's a thing that's appearing under, which I don't really know what the point was there of that. But I don't have any medium recoveries yet left, so I'm like, okay, this thing's got barely any health. This is it. It's her or me. And again, it is so hard to avoid those rings while because you have no sense of depth perception whatsoever. And here I get annoyed again because it's flipped my camera around and flipped it straight back. but I'm almost there, but I know this thing is going to hit like a truck if I get hit. Case in point. I level up, fortunately, at that moment, which gives me the full heal, and I barely make it through the boss battle.
Go!
And that's when I realised I forgot to use that ability the entire game. I feel like that scene was alluding to something, but I'm not sure what. That little silhouette scene back there. But yeah, we made a fucking
You mean
mess.
the hacking? No worries. Us scanners are pretty good at that kind of thing. I've got your back anytime.
You're still in the friend zone, 9S. But
We
yeah,
have to save those androids.
I'm sorry, 2B. Their circuits are fried.
oh
They
yeah,
are being kept alive by
the
that
androids are all dead, so I think on that somber note, that's kind of a good place to close it out. So next time on the air, the pre-recorded adventures, we're going to go further in and see what else we can find. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.